Crime comes in different forms, but smuggling illegal goods with a submarine is the height of criminal thinking. I mean, take for example the smugglers they caught with the biggest sub filled with a no-no powder. You get what I mean, right? So let's dip into the tales of these real-life underwater smugglers who messed with the wrong navy. 10. The submarine filled with illegal goods. In April 2023, a guy named Nick Beek stumbled upon this huge deal. He found out about this makeshift underwater boat, a narco sub, they call it, used for sneaking stuff, let's say forbidden cargo, from South America to Europe. This thing was massive, like 20 meters long, and made of fiberglass, hiding out in the Brazilian jungle. Then, they managed to sneak it through the Amazon River. It was not just any boat, it was like a big, bold move, showing how far these smugglers can go. 3 guys were on this thing, right? They had a rough time, stuck in there with 3 tons of this super valuable cargo worth like $150 million. Their journey ended off the coast of Galicia in Spain. They tried to hide their tracks by sinking the sub, but got caught anyway. Turns out, this wasn't a one-time thing. There's been a rise in these stealthy sea crafts since 2019, used for smuggling. Even the UK's National Crime Agency was keeping an eye on them. After everything the world went through with COVID, it seems there's been a boom, with loads of these subs believed to be setting off towards Europe. Now, fast forward a bit, and another one of these subs gets found near Galicia again. It's like a never-ending cat-and-mouse game with these sneaky traffickers. Europe's got a big problem, being the second-largest spot for this high-demand cargo right after the US. It's all tangled up, with Colombian and Mexican groups linking up with local Spanish ones. Over in Pontevedra, Spain, there was this big bust. The cops found a place cranking out loads of this stuff daily. And it's not just there. Places like Antwerp in Belgium have become major entry points. Last year, they grabbed a record amount showing just how massive this issue is. But it's not all about the numbers. There are real, tough stories out there. Like in Antwerp, there was a serious incident that shook everyone up, all because of these turf wars. Officials in Belgium, like the Justice Minister and a known judge, are pretty vocal about the scary influence and corruption these big-time operators have, calling out for some serious action. Belgium's situation is just part of a much bigger picture, with Europe facing a huge challenge. The UN's even talking about global gangs getting more connected. And these smugglers? They're looking at new places like Asia and Africa, chasing the big bucks. So, the struggle continues, with law enforcement trying to keep up and tackle this widespread problem. 9. Coast Guard nabs submarine loaded with forbidden cargo. Back in June 2019, there was this big scene out on the Pacific Ocean. The US Coast Guard caught a 40-foot submarine loaded with a ton of this forbidden cargo, let's say a really, really valuable load, worth about $165 million. This sneaky sub was heading towards the United States when the Coast Guard's ship, the Valiant, jumped into action. They sent out 2 fast boats and managed to get on board the sub on September 5th, catching 4 guys in a quick move with a little help from the Colombian Navy. When they got back, the scene was something out of the ordinary, with all that valuable cargo laid out on the Valiant's deck. The guy in charge, Commander Matthew Waldron, was super pumped, talking about how they just crossed the equator and then caught this sub all in one day. He was really proud of his team, saying they did an amazing job. The 4 guys caught, Enrique Mantilla Olaya, Fausto Hurtado Candelo, Weiber Tenorio Rodriguez, and Fernando Tribino Mina, ended up facing some serious charges in the US, with people keeping a close eye on them, especially Tenorio Rodriguez, because of some whispers about where they came from. But this wasn't just a one-time thing. This sub was part of a bigger picture, with lots of similar actions happening along the Eastern Pacific route. Just before this, another sub was caught with even more of this stuff on board. Over 3 months, from May to July, 3 Coast Guard ships were super busy, catching 14 vessels carrying forbidden cargo off the coasts of Mexico, Central and South America. They managed to get a huge amount of this cargo, adding up to a market shock of around $569 million. It was a massive effort, showing how big this whole situation is. 8. A Royal Navy ship on a wild chase. Back in October 2022, the Caribbean Sea turned into a place for the unexpected to happen. The HMS Medway, part of the Royal Navy, teamed up with the US Coast Guard for a super intense chase. They were after this sneaky boat near the Dominican Republic, loaded with a huge amount of forbidden goods, worth a cool £24 million, right from those secret paths in South America. The Medway, like a watchdog of the Caribbean, caught these smugglers on its radar. With help from a sharp-eyed aircraft, they started a night-long chase that was nothing short of epic. They ended up catching over 400 kilograms of this illegal stuff, nabbed 3 guys running the operation, and struck a major hit to the shady business trying to reach Britain. In a twist you'd see in movies, they sank the smugglers' boat, not just to get rid of it, but to also give the Royal Navy's team some real action practice. Kind of hitting 2 birds with 1 stone, you know? The guy leading the Medway, Commander Chris Hollingworth, was really proud of how smooth everything went. He praised his team and the US Coast Guard for their awesome work. It was like they were all part of this big mission, taking a chunk out of the global smuggling game and keeping the streets cleaner. This wasn't just a win for them. It sent a loud message to all those sneaky smuggler types that the seas aren't their playground. With the HMS Medway, the US Coast Guard, and their eyes in the sky working together, they showed how strong they are when they join forces, cutting down on these illegal activities. 7. US Navy catches Yemeni arms smugglers. So, in December 2022, things got really intense on the high seas. The US Navy's 5th Fleet had a moment in the North Arabian Sea. They had these 2 ships, the USS Tempest and USS Typhoon, kind of patrolling the area. They came across this mysterious boat without any country flags, right? And they hit the jackpot. But in a different way, they found loads of these dangerous tools like 1,400 Kalashnikov rifles and about 200,000 bullets. The buzz was that these were heading from Iran, probably to the Houthi rebels in Yemen, stirring up more trouble in already shaky grounds. This wasn't just them stumbling on something big. It was a deliberate move to cut off a major supply line of conflict weapons. This area of the sea is notorious for such shady dealings, and the catch pointed straight at Tehran, suggesting they were quietly helping the Houthis, despite the world saying, "Hey, that's not okay." This whole scene is part of a much bigger mess, with Yemen's civil war kind of being a battleground for bigger powers, like Saudi Arabia and Iran, duking it out from a distance. Despite meetings in places like Baghdad trying to calm things down, Yemen's still in a tough spot, with the Houthi group standing strong against outsiders trying to butt in. The guys on the boat, coming from Yemen, got caught in this massive geopolitical tug-of-war. After they were caught, their boat was sunk, a strong message against the illegal weapon flow. Since early 2021, the 5th Fleet has been pretty busy, nabbing about 8,700 of these smuggled weapons, showing just how big this shadow fight at sea is. Looking back to another operation in May, where they grabbed things like anti-tank missiles and sniper rifles, it's clear there's a major crackdown going on. This is all tangled up with the Middle East's tricky security situation. Each of these operations is like a piece in a puzzle, showing the world's big players are really serious about cutting off the supplies that keep these conflicts burning. 6. Largest ever Colombian narco sub intercepted in the Pacific Ocean. Back in May 2023, The Colombian Navy made some waves with a huge find in the Pacific. They came across the biggest narco sub ever seen, 100 feet long and 10 feet wide, packed with 3 tons of forbidden cargo. This giant was sneaking towards Central America, a known path for moving Colombian goods to the eager US market. The capture was like something out of a movie. 3 guys from Colombia, aged between 45 and 63, got caught. Their stories hinted at how tough smuggling life is, with hints of them being pushed into it by some powerful cartel. The Navy shared video clips of the whole operation, showing just how risky and intense these sea battles against smuggling can be. This wasn't just a big win. It was historic. Over 30 years, the Colombian Navy has grabbed 228 of these sneaky subs. They're built to stay mostly underwater, making them perfect for moving stuff secretly, not just to the US, but also across the ocean to Europe. By 2023, they had already stopped 4 of these subs. In March, they found one with a really sad story. 2 crew members didn't make it, alongside a massive haul. It shows the dangerous life these sub-navigators lead. This massive catch, the biggest since 1993, meant a $103 million hit to the smugglers' bank. And it's no secret, Colombia's been on the map for its massive production of the white stuff, with numbers skyrocketing, really showing the scale of this shadowy trade. In the midst of all this, a big player in this underworld, known as the Prince of Semi-Submersibles, got a 20-year sentence in the US for running a setup that moved a ton of this stuff northward. These stories pull back the curtain on the sneaky world of smuggling, with these narco subs cruising the oceans, playing a cat-and-mouse game with the law. It's like a giant game of chess on the seas, with every move and countermove not just shaking up the smuggling lines, but also showing the ongoing struggle to clamp down on this global issue. 5. Electric narco submarines seized in Colombia. So, let's dive into a tale from the covert world where the stakes are high and the players are deep into innovation. In November 2020, the Colombian Navy, with a helping hand from the US Drug Enforcement Agency and some local talent, made a move on this hidden shipyard by Colombia's Cucurupi River. What they found was pretty wild, a narco submarine. Now, this wasn't your typical run-of-the-mill smuggling boat. It was a top-tier, high-tech underwater craft that cost about $1.5 million to make. Designed for serious business, it could carry 6 metric tons of that no-no powder, worth around $120 million, right into the US. Smugglers have always been keen on these low-profile vessels, trying to keep under the radar. But this discovery was a game-changer. It was a fully submersible machine, able to dive under the waves, though just for short stints. It had a smooth, cylindrical body with a sealed top entrance and fins, powered by a massive 10-ton battery and twin electric motors. This sub could silently move underwater for 12 hours, cruising about 32 nautical miles at a slow pace. But here's a clever twist. They plan to tow it with a bigger ship, then cut it loose near its destination, sinking it after the delivery to hide any evidence. It reminds people of a similar electric sub caught in 2017, hinting at some brainy folks repeatedly outsmarting the good guys. Even with all this tech and time, none of these electric subs have been caught at sea yet, showing just how sneakily effective they are. This find by the Colombian Navy really puts things into perspective. These under-the-sea smuggling routes are getting more advanced, funded by the huge cash pool of the illicit trade. With the brains of this operation now caught, it leaves us wondering who's going to pick up the torch in this high-stakes underwater smuggling saga. 4. Navy busts illegal oil smuggling ring in South Thailand. Let me tell you about a recent event where the Royal Thai Navy really showed their chops. Near Songkhla, a place that's usually quiet, They caught a boat sneaking around with 10,000 liters of stolen oil, aimed at selling it off to local fishermen who had no clue. This went down on February 7, 2024, throwing a spotlight on the sneaky business of moving oil the wrong way across the sea. The Navy got wind of this through a tip, and the 2nd Naval Area Command was on it in a flash. They tracked down this shady boat, all set up for smuggling oil on the sly. It was like something out of a spy drama when they swooped in and caught the crew, 4 guys who suddenly found themselves in deep water facing the law back at Songkhla Naval Base. But that's not the end of it. Thailand's been dealing with a bigger problem too. Last year, things got really out of hand with a boom in methamphetamine smuggling. We're talking about over 250 million stimulant pills getting grabbed by the authorities. It's a massive challenge, with smugglers getting bolder and crossing borders like never before. The new Prime Minister, Srettha Thavisin, is in a tight spot with this whole mess, especially with everyone worried about this stuff getting to the younger crowd. He's not just sitting back, though. He's hit the ground running with tough actions like tackling illegal trades in para-rubber in Kanchanaburi, showing he means business. So this whole scenario with the Navy stopping the oil smugglers and the country fighting against a surge in illegal goods really paints a picture of what Thailand is up against. With the Royal Thai Navy leading the charge, they're all about keeping the coast clear and steering the country away from these dangerous waters of smuggling and illegal activities. 3. Underwater drones seized by Spanish police. So, over in the sunny waters near Spain, July 2022 really shook things up in the world of sneaky business. They caught 3 underwater drones being used to move stuff quietly from Morocco. These weren't your average gadgets. They were blending high-tech and old-school smuggling into one. This big operation led to 8 people getting caught across Cadiz, Malaga, and Barcelona, revealing a pretty slick operation that was stepping up the game in Europe. These drones were something else, each able to haul 200 kilograms of hidden goods. For over a year, the police were piecing together clues, leading to Spain's first ever catch of these unmanned underwater smugglers. Equipped with GPS, these sneaky machines were navigating the busy waters of the Strait of Gibraltar, a key spot linking Morocco and Spain to deliver their secret loads. But the catch wasn't just about these underwater robots. They found a whole treasure trove of stuff. 14 kilograms of hashish, 8 kilograms of marijuana, a bunch of money, and even 6 more of these hefty drones. The network running this show had some family flair too, with a father-son team at its core, where the son was pretty handy with helicopters, showing they were really into crafting these high-tech hiding spots for clients all over Europe. Spain's location is perfect for this sort of thing, sitting right next to Morocco and being a favorite entry point for goods from South America. The police found all sorts of tricked-out vehicles, like trailers with hidden compartments big enough to stash up to 800 kilo, showing just how deep and wide this operation went. Linking back to previous actions against semi-submersible vessels and homemade subs, this episode adds to Spain's significant spot in the global story of smuggling. The Strait of Gibraltar, super narrow and usually watched for fast boats, is now in the spotlight for possibly letting these underwater drones slip through. This whole deal with the drones near Spain isn't just a setback for the smuggling world, it's a major moment in the ongoing battle of wits between the cops and the smugglers, adding a new twist to the tale of tech meets crime on the high seas. 2. Nazi smuggling submarine found in Argentina. Let's dive into a story from the depths of Argentina, where in 2022, a sunken submarine was discovered that might just twist what we know about the aftermath of World War II. There's talk that this could be a relic from the Nazi era, hinting at those old tales about Nazis sneaking off to Argentina when the war ended. This British journalist, Lawrence de Mello, stirred the pot, revealing hints of a hush-hush deal between the US and Argentina using secret underwater routes to smuggle Nazis. This mysterious sub, found near places called Costa Bonita and Arenas Verdes, is cloaked in secrecy. Even with a whopping $300,000 splashed on diving into its history, Argentina's officials are keeping their lips sealed. The big mission was to figure out where this sub came from, when it made its last dive, and if it was really carrying passengers with a dark past. But just when things started getting interesting, Argentina hit the brakes on the investigation, even ignoring international calls to share the story of this underwater ghost with the world. In March 2022, a group led by a guy named Abel Basti, called Eslabon Perdido, took the plunge, braving the deep with tech and courage to grab 8 hours of footage and loads of pictures, including shots of a part that could point to it being a U-boat, stirring those legendary Nazi submarine rumors. Despite the ocean's grip and the swirling currents, naval experts like Dr. Martin Cannavaro and Dr. Fabio Bisiotti managed to sift through the footage, convinced there's more to this silent figure under the sea, pushing for a closer look to crack open its real story. There's a buzz that Argentina's politics, especially with elections on the horizon, might be keeping this wreck's tale under wraps, sparking whispers of a hidden history agenda. Dr. Ariel Gelbung from the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Latin America is pushing for the truth, wanting the state to clear up the fog around this piece of history to make sure the World War II story is told right, without lingering in the shadows of mystery. 1. U-boats smuggling illegal booze in Puget Sound. So let's go back to Seattle's Puget Sound in the chilly winter of 1922, smack in the middle of Prohibition in America. There was this buzz about a secret sub sneaking around with a load of illegal booze, stirring up quite the excitement. This story was no ordinary smuggling tale. It was like something out of those secret spy missions from the war, only this time with submarines sneaking in the good stuff, from hidden spots in Canada and the Caribbean to the thirsty folks in the US, from the misty docks of Cape May, New Jersey, to the beaches of Long Island and Cape Cod. Everyone was talking about these sneaky underwater ships carrying barrels upon barrels of alcohol, totally thumbing their noses at Prohibition's no-drink rule. The authorities were baffled, torn between thinking it was all made up and being really worried. Submarines were supposed to be for Navy bigwigs, not for some shady alcohol smuggling. Considering the huge number of U-boats Germany made during World War I and how tight the US Navy was with its own ships, the thought of them being used to run booze seemed pretty far-fetched. But still, the rumors kept flying, capturing everyone's imagination. On the West Coast, there were whispers about a submarine made in Seattle that ended up in the smuggling game. Over on the East Coast, people were abuzz about a giant German U-boat playing a game of sneak around with the Coast Guards. Things got even more intriguing in 1924 when photos popped up showing two mysterious subs in the Hudson River, way off from where you'd normally see naval ships, sparking even more gossip. But it wasn't all about hidden bars and sneaky drinks. For instance, in 1925, Lake Michigan gave up a secret with a submarine-like thing, found ready to move some beer quietly under the radar. And Lake Champlain wasn't going to be left out, revealing its own underwater beer mover in 1926. Even though many of these big stories about submarine booze cruises kind of fizzled out, they left a lasting impression on the Prohibition era's legend. It wasn't just about breaking the law. It was a time brimming with clever, though not always confirmed, ways of getting drinks to those who wanted them. Whether these stories were true or not, they give us a peek into a time when the chase for a good drink went to some wild lengths, diving deep into the sea's secrets. All right, we've just wrapped up these wild stories. I'm really interested to know what you think about these bold, beneath-the-surface adventures. Jump into the comments and let's kick off a chat about these intense showdowns that have snagged the spotlight, leaving us all pretty amazed and scratching our heads in wonder.